To FinTech Fridays. We are plowing through the year. It's crazy. We've got Q1 behind us and are pushing into the hopefully an active spring home buyer season. And so welcome back everybody to our little podcast. I'm really excited today to have Matt Marx join. Matt is the founder of Evocalize. And if you've watched this show before, what I love, which is talking to cool people with cool products and cool companies, and especially when I get to talk to them for the first time, which is what we're doing here today on this episode. Matt, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Brian. It's great to be here, and lots of high expectations starting out of the gate with interesting, fun people, right?
That's right.
Try and live up to it.
Cool people.
Cool people. We're trying to live up to cool people.
Well, I want to get right into your story. Evocalize. I've started to see you guys a lot more in the industry, in the mortgage side of the industry, and we'll get to that in a minute. But tell us about you, your journey, which led to you founding Evocalize.
Yeah, thanks. I'll not try and bore people too much with my story, but just in brief, I am a recovering software developer, software engineer. So I started out my career back in the dating myself back in the .com era, writing code, and I quickly realized that I was a much better product manager, product builder than I was coder. And so I was a very mediocre coder, it turned out. And so I actually have done a number of things in my career. I would say I'm first and foremost a strategist and technology product manager and owner. But I've been in the private equity world. I've been in financial services writ large. I've been in software. I've been in many, many industries as a strategy and management consultant. And so we started to Evocalize on the heels of helping to take our last company public, a marketing technology company out of Austin, Texas, called Bizarre Voice. And one of the things we realized in the process of that IPO way back in 2012, we looked a lot at the paid marketing activities and paid arena. And we realized, although a lot of things had been automated in other industries, this industry was still dominated by people out of advertising agencies, hiring lots of folks out of college. And those folks work the keyboards, typing, running manual marketing programs all day long, with a few exceptions. And so we thought that was a little bit silly even back then. And so we set out to figure out how to automate highly sophisticated, high performance marketing programs so that we could support folks with a local bent, with maybe lower budgets than $50,000, $100,000, $1 million a month, like a lot of the agencies demand. And so we wondered if we could put through use of technology and automation and now generative AI, could we put a data scientist and an expert marketer in the back pocket of every local business so that they could market just as well as the largest businesses in the world with the largest advertising budgets. And so that's what we set out to do. It's been a hard and difficult problem, more difficult, as we were kind of joking before we get on, more difficult than you realize when you get into a business and start one. So we're about 10 years old as a company now, and I'm happy to tell you, where we took it from there. But that's the little bit of the backstory of the why we started the business and what we set out to do before we hit the ground.
I love it. I want to get into the weeds too, because I happen to believe that we're at this inflection point in housing finance. There's a lot of noise, a lot of things going on. The NAR settlement. We're kind of hot off that. That's still much the chatter. All kinds of speculation and debate about what happens to the buyer agent. Is there a role for the local loan officer to kind of play this dual role? Is there an opportunity for the local agent, buyer's agent, to also play a dual role and kind of be this all things home acquisition concierge, which I think screams to the need for your platform at a hyper local level, right? To really kind of amplify the voice. So I know you guys have made some traction from the traditional real estate side into the mortgage side, and most of this audience is probably more mortgage centric. So I think they'll be interested to understand how some of the largest, frankly, mortgage companies are partnering with you today and getting kind of great value. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. And I'll leave
Yeah,
it
for
to
sure.
you whether you want to name names. I won't.
I'll name some names. Yeah, I'll name some names and try not to get myself in trouble, as I always try and avoid on podcasts. Right, it's
Right.
a dangerous game. So when we started, I'll give just a bit more backstory that will lead into, I think, the answer to your question. When we started with just a little bit coincidentally, our primary seed venture capitalist, Madrona Venture Group out of Seattle, had an investment at the time in Redfin in the real estate space, and so they had
Yep.
a lot of smart data scientists and data engineers, and so they kind of matched us up with them, and we matched up with a couple of others, and really innovated and invented together. And what we ended up developing was this like kind of machine that took in data and ran local marketing, profitable local marketing to generate leads and effectively generate margin
Yeah.
at really large scale, right? And so we quickly started getting calls. We got calls from Meta, then called Facebook, and Google, and then others in the residential real estate space. And that's how we ended up starting in residential real estate. As you've mentioned, we actually started at the portal level. So
Uh,
Realtor.com, still one of our largest partners, actually also an investor in us. And so we put in an infrastructure that sat underneath all these portals. And then about 5 years ago, we looked up and said, well, that's great. It works well. Like it's worked for years. But what if we could take this same concept and hand it to the local marketer, as I mentioned, which was kind of our goal the whole time. So that was our evolution a little bit. So what we're trying to do and what we're doing, we have about, just to give you a sense of scale, we have about more than 500,000 realtors that use our platform, and more than 100,000 monthly active users that are logging in. Some of those fully automate marketing programs, so they're not having to log in; it just works for them. But what we aim to do is take this portal level marketing program and put it in place for everyone out there underneath a franchise or a parent group who can arm them. So we started out with residential real estate, really honed it there, and then we've moved over to mortgage. Some of our partners that your folks would know, Guarantee Rate Mortgage is a great partner of ours for their enterprise. CMG Financial, we have some tech platforms that embed us and white label us in the mortgage space as well, and we're really going. We see some of the upcoming, not only the NAR settlement and the changes. In fact, I was just on the phone with our partners at CMG and their leadership team right before this, talking about some of those changes and how we think it will impact and the need for lead generation at the local MLO level.
yeah.
And some of the things we're doing there, we're just talking about that exact topic. But also that if your audience is following the FCC rulings and the TCPA changes and some of the changes at the lead aggregation level, lead generation is going to change independent of the things happening in residential real estate. So this whole thing is going in. I think I read an article that called it the Wild West recently, right? And so we're hoping to be we think we can be a solution for a lot of the industry, empowering their own lead generation, just like the portals do, so they don't have to be kind of beholden to these third parties to drive their own business.
Right. So I'm gonna poke a little bit only because I want to better understand, and I think there's probably others that when they hear the term marketer or marketing campaigns, there's a lot of questions like, what does that mean? So you don't have to go into like grave detail, but at a high level, we're not talking about billboards and pictures on bus stops, right? We're talking about a digital strategy.
For better or worse, we are a performance oriented culture, right? And so we and there's some merit to billboards, and there's some merit to seeing your picture out there, and there's some merit to flyers. I sometimes go too far on the performance side, I guess is my point. But I'm a performance thinker. We're kind of more scientists than we are artists in some way, right? And so and it's just based on kind of how we came up as data people. So we bias ourselves to very sophisticated programs that generate marketing that builds local awareness with the goal to drive transactions. The mechanism of that is often a lead in the middle of that process, but the lead is not the end result that we look for. What we look for is the local marketing to drive people into the process, for you to build them into your sphere, to build them into your contact database, to nurture them over time in order to close a transaction to make you money. That's what we want. That's why we're in business. We're in the business to serve consumers in the best way we can, but we have to drive our business in order to serve consumers. We have to meet more and more consumers. And so that's what we think about. So we're thinking about the same places the portals go to market and meet people. You can go directly. It's just really hard to do it well, right? So you can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, you can go to WhatsApp, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Google search, you can go to TikTok. So what we do is we provide a layer of effectively a software platform that allows an organization like a Guaranteed Rate Financial to wire a lot of their data in, best practices, compliance guardrails, and then to automate some marketing centrally for their loan officers and for the organization, and also to hand the system out to their loan officers so that they and their partners can use it to drive their own leads, all working in the same umbrella. So the system over time improves itself through machine learning and AI, and the system works together to get really smart about how to generate leads and effectively how to generate leads that drive transactions at the end of the day. And so that's what we're doing in the mortgage space. That's why we're in the business to begin with, not to just, brochure wear this thing. Like we want to drive real results.
Each brand, each enterprise client has their own voice, their own kind of message. You're not necessarily playing a role in that, are you? Or is that part of what you do as well?
We're first and foremost a technology company. So we have this kind of somewhat different, fully automated machine that allows folks to market for as small or as large as they want, right? So we literally will have, it's all automated. So we'll have marketers that can spend in the residential real estate space. I saw an order, an ad, a campaign for $3 the other day. It was literally $3 and they got a lead, right? Like $3.
Pretty good spend.
Pretty good spend. Now you can't do that if you haven't invested. We've invested over $30 million in building this full automation infrastructure that takes all their data, all the data that we can get from the enterprise, helps them like generate pictures and imagery and videos and all this stuff, right? Which is where generative AI is really playing a big role. And then does it all automatically. So there's not a human that has to be in the loop. You've basically preset the compliance guardrails so that you don't have to do it after the fact. And that way you can get a lot of timeliness and flexibility, automation. We can act on data like rates information. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do then, but that's the foundation of what we're trying to do.
So I'm going to ask you to humor me a bit, and I'm going to kind of present a use case or a persona, and then try to put this thing into practice so that someone can visualize. So I don't know if you've seen or been annoyed by all the traffic about this little green book, but
I love it.
Kyle and I collaborated with 37 other people, and the whole idea was to help loan officers of any age better understand how to serve the next generation home buyer. So with that as our kind of backdrop and context, like the goal here, I'm a local loan officer, right? I'm working with your platform, Matt, and my objective is to start to build a community of prospective home buyers who might be 6, 12, 18, 24 months out from being ready to transact, right? Let's like go through a little use case on how your platform is going to help serve my goals and objectives. I understand that I've got to have the content and the messaging, but how do I leverage your platform to kind of pull that off?
Well, you may not even need to have the content and the messaging, Brian, if your franchise system or your parent group or your tech provider, your CRM, for instance, has provided it for you, right? So in a lot of cases, our partners like a Guaranteed Rate will actually wire in preset videos, messaging that can be personalized, and personalization is overlaid. So everything, audiences are pre-wired, all the ingredients that you need for great marketing programs are pre-wired. But regardless of that, whether they wire all the data in for you or whether you have to create your own copy or messaging in the system, the former, by the way, is much more common in our world than the latter.
Yes.
They like to do it for you, so you don't
Right.
loan officer, don't worry as much about marketing, right? You shouldn't be spending a ton of time there. But we give you basically log in through your franchise partner or CRM partner, and you have a little dashboard, and it's what do you want to do today, right? And so I'm going to start with a simple use case, and then I'm going to tell you the more advanced thing that you can do behind the covers, right? The simple one is I want to run a marketing program. I don't have to worry about how to do it in Facebook or Google or TikTok or any of that. I'm presented with a few choices that I can make, and I can select them. Everything else auto assembles itself. And maybe I choose geography, I choose a few things, and then I literally press go. And our platform then takes that data and sets up things like local marketing on TikTok, local marketing on Instagram, local marketing on, sets up a Google search program with your neighborhoods automatically built in and world-class keyword lists. You don't have to go deal with all that. And it builds all that in. So in less than a minute, you as an LO with no knowledge about marketing can press a button and all this magical marketing happens for you. And then if we're set up for lead orientation, this can be lots of different steps that kind of reaches your local customer base, including realtors, by the way, in a lot of cases, right? So we're trying to get in front of realtors too. Those can be part of the data and the list. And we're reaching them with your message of why you can guide your value prop, why you can guide the customer through the complicated process in a way that maybe others can't, right? And so you're getting out in front of them so that, to your point, they come into you when they're ready. And we really like to think always on. You want to always have marketing programs running, even if it's at a low spend level. So they're always there because our customers are always on digital, right? They're on all these channels. You don't know which one they're on, but they're on them, right? And so you really need to be, we call it digitally omnipresent. And then when they're ready, we want to be ready through the data signals that we're looking at to ask them, okay, do you want to, can I call you, right? Can I contact you? Can I text you, right? And so then we get them into the lead process, and then we can start a nurturing flow based on that. So that's like you wanting to say, I want to run a marketing program in all these places myself. I want to do it really quickly and easily. First step. Second step, advanced case, I can set all that to just operate for me. So I can automate it. So what the common use case is, maybe an LO says, let me try it. I'm going to try it for a little bit of time. And then I'm going to set it to an automation. I'm going to say things like, it can get as sophisticated as rates are changing, automatically run different marketing programs against cohorts of my CRM database that have rates that should make them interested in a refi, right? Maybe this hopefully is a big line of thinking as we come through the next year, 18 months, right? So now you're getting in front of them, but you don't have to do anything. The system is automatically identifying where rates are, where your customer segments are, which rates those customers have. And through the magic of data integration, we're able to automate all that. So it's a kind of thing. It's not limited to that, but that's the kind of thing you can do. In real estate, we often have like home data elements, like we're educating the customer on home values in the area, appreciation, depreciation, things that are going on in the neighborhood, right? We're able to get in front of them because you need to be digitally present all the time in order to be at the point of lead capture. And then you need to nurture on the backside of lead capture to be there when they're ready to transact. And that's how you get in front of the portals.
And so it's being present, but also being present with the right content, the right message for the right time, right?
That's right.
That's your point around leveraging data to best put the best message in front of the consumer at that right time.
That's right, Brian. And, that's the barrier for folks doing it themselves. We have our head of product. I was just talking to him this morning, and he's an advertising expert, right? Like he designs a lot of products, been with us for a long time. And he said, I had to run an ad for someone in my family the other day. And I spent like hours in there trying to figure it out just in one channel, figuring out how to configure the option to work well. And he's like, I just so reinforces why we built the technology we did, because I could have done it in 30 seconds if we'd had that use case built for that industry for that brand, right? So that's the idea. How do you democratize this really complicated marketing so that everyone can do it for as little or as much as they want to spend?
I love that. And I'm guessing clients of yours, I'm not going to see it like the social media post that just happened about a month ago with the time change, right? Uh,
Yeah.
or the pumpkin pie recipe around
No,
Thanksgiving.
no, those are again, there's some merits to some of that stuff, but you can't do too much of that stuff if you're looking at return on investment and trying to
Right.
say, okay, how far are my dollars going? I would say, just from an educational perspective for the audience, do that stuff. It's okay, right? Put content out. You can post it organically without paying,
Yep.
but your organic non-paid content doesn't go very far because, well, shocker, these ad platforms are in business to make money, right? And so they don't show many people your posts, and that might be frustrating to you. It's okay, still do it, but if you really are talking about making a return and getting value and getting leads to populate your database so you can nurture it through one of the great CRMs out there in the industry, you really have to pay for it. There's no way around it these days.
Yeah.
When you're spending your dollar, it's a hard thing to do, to go take guesses and try and figure out what to
Right.
do out there. No.
Well, you said a couple times, machine learning and AI. So your clients get the benefit of the aggregate learnings that your platform has, not just in housing and finance, right? It expands beyond any other area that you all are working in.
That's right. There are a bunch of different layers when you talk about machine learning that learn, right? And so there's a layer at the Evocalize end. There's a layer at each brand, each partner that learns for their entire network. And that's actually a very big center of learning for the machine learning models. It's each brand that comes on, and so each individual LO may not spend enough money to, every dollar contributes to the volume that trains the model, right? And so
Yeah.
if you're just learning on your own, if you just log into Meta or log into Google and put, $50 or $100 or $200 or $500 in, it's not enough, right? It's not
Right.
enough money to train the system on success. And so you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to get the results you want, and you're going to bail, and you're going to cede all that ground to your competitor down the street, right? And so you don't want to do that. So if a franchise system enables you, it creates a network effect of folks that then are all helping the entire system to learn faster, because it learns on all the dollars that are spent, not just the dollars that you spend. And
Yeah, I
that's
love
to
that.
your point a little bit. That's the network effect that we get into.
That's huge. Especially in this mortgage industry where you have some big brands, and you named a couple, right? The CMGs and the guaranteed rates, but then you have a lot of mid to small size enterprise brands. And so my last question is, what I'm listening to and hearing is that your structure is set up to support many different sizes and flavors of originator. You happen to mention some of the biggest, but I'm guessing your platform is scalable even for the smaller guys as well.
It is. We have some modest minimums,
Yeah.
just because we're an enterprise model, but so we won't go sell directly to an individual loan officer. We're just not instrumented in that way, because the platform relies on data, right? And
Yeah.
so we could do that if we went and onboarded a lot of data
Sure.
ourselves. And that's an ongoing debate, I guess, within the four walls of a business, when you create a business and run it. But really, what works great, you mentioned it yourself, every brand kind of has its own voice, right? And so we chose to serve the individual LOs through our technology partners. So we have a
Ah,
technology partner in the mortgage industry because they have your data, right? So it's all
right.
kind of wired up already. So we go to market either through a mortgage company, right? And that can be medium sized or large, or we go through the technology partners who are already serving the industry. Because there are two reasons for that. Like Bonzo, is that people are familiar with
Yeah.
the platform Bonzo. They're a partner of ours, and we have some others in the mortgage space. If it's integrated, it's one, easier to use because you just have a new
Yep.
button or new menu,
Yep.
right? And it's in there. One, two, the data is all integrated. So you don't have to go figure out where your data is and wire it all up. That's the hard part about being an individual and licensing our tech directly. You have to go wire up all this stuff. So that's
Yeah.
how we go to market. We go through the tech providers, the CRM providers. I would ask my CRM provider, for anyone out there, by the way, or my website provider, how are you doing paid? Like, what are you doing in paid? And tell them about Evocalize,
Yeah.
because it really, it really works magically well when this stuff is in the same arena. You have one login, your data is all unified, it's seamless. It's a great experience for everyone involved, rather than having to log into lots of different systems and deal with data munging. No one wants to do that. It's a waste of time for the industry.
So I know from what I learned here, I'm going to be booking a meeting because my mind's racing with how your platform and my technology with a shared customer relationship could be pretty powerful. So look for me on your calendar soon, Matt.
Love it. Love it. Let's meet.
I know where to find you. What's the best way for folks that are wrapping up this episode today to find you to learn more?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. So if any of you out there are LinkedIn fans, I'm Matthew Marx, Marx, and the company is Evocalize. And so check us out, follow us, connect with me. I'd love to connect with folks in the industry. And we're posting about hot topics in the industry, pretty hot on the FCC, TCPA changes. I've spoken on Housing Wire and a number of other places about that. So connect with us there. And then our website is evocalize.com. Out there, pretty simple. And then my email is just Matt, MATT, @evocalize.com. Drop me a line.
Love it. And we'll make sure when we publish, we'll put some tags and connect the dots there as well. Matt, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you spending some time with me here today. Like I said, I learned enough that I'm going to be booking a meeting here shortly.
That's amazing endorsement. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate the time.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. Come back in 2 weeks for our next episode of FinTech Fridays.